we're gonna have a bit of a break from ads and just crushing money. I've been a coach for 25 years. I care about hugely your product, the service, and delivery. How long have you been with
16 years.
16 years. Okay. So there's a lot of experience between us. This is not for me to talk today. This is for me to just talk to Dylan. We're going to break that, and we're going to talk about coaching. We're going to talk about creating long-lasting change. And long-lasting change, actually, to me, all comes down to not just the long-lasting change in person, but also if you can create long-lasting change in somebody, they don't want to leave. So if somebody consistently sees the value in you being in their corner, then as a coach, can you take that person through it? And what are the limitations that actually stops this person? Of which Dylan will, like...
So stop.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about long-lasting change. So also, and I'd like you to just introduce how you're into all this as well. But we're also going to dive into the drugs, GLP1s. That's not my area of expertise, but the level that Dylan will go into, and we'll have some Q&As at the end, because the world of peptides and lexitide, all these different things, like this is his kind of wheelhouse and his understanding of all that. But I think just to give some background, we've been working over a year now together. I knew of Dylan, and you obviously know of me, but we came together. He was one of my personal clients, and how many different niches have you worked in fitness industry?
Probably like 4 or 5. I really excelled at 3.
You've been the best at 3. So in Canada, he's seen as one of the top bodybuilding and physique coaches, weight loss industry.
And then functional health, right? Whatever that's defined by a little different from everyone else.
So the funny thing is, we came together when you said, listen, I built these different businesses. You built a gym, very successful gym with a group of partners. And it's like, I want to crush the online side. And the interesting thing is that marketing side, being a great coach, is kind of like a new world. Yes. So we've spent a lot of time together on, positioning, messaging, offers, putting all, because there's one thing about being very smart, and there's another thing being very good at marketing. Steve and I were just talking about how the messaging is a skill, and we're working on that, and how we actually market the business. But I mean, we'll talk about this on the stage, but from the coaching side of it, let's get straight into kind of like, talk us through your kind of background in coaching and what led you to specifically the model you have right now.
Sure. And so I've been coaching for about 15 years. Like, I've been online that whole time. I was doing PT, and then online coaching became a thing. I think, to my knowledge, I'm one of the first people to do online coaching. Basically, it was like me and Jeff Nipper and Elaine Norton and Scooby and a few other folks. And I found fitness to become fit. I was obese my whole life, and at 19 years old, I fell 5 stories, so I fell 50 feet, and I broke my spine, both heels, my left ankle, and my right elbow. And that really wasn't the bottom for me. In that process, obviously being in the hospital, I was a 19-year-old male. I'm sure all the men here can relate to this, but when I was 19, I wasn't going to get routine blood work and see. I was just concerned about getting enough money to have for a case of beer on the weekend and things like this. And as I'm laying in a hospital bed, semi-paralyzed, they informed me that I'm pre-diabetic, I have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And so that's kind of a stark moment where you're like, okay, maybe I'm not going to walk again properly, and I have all these metabolic diseases. You would think that would be enough pain to suffer to be like, okay, I'm going to make a change. 16 weeks in the hospital, I got out and got severely addicted to Oxycontin and Valium. And so then I basically blew up my whole life. I had the smallest basic construction business at the time that I basically lost. I was one to one doing all the work, and now my body was broken. And I remember my mom coming down the basement. I had 2 boots on my feet, those plastic ugly boots. My heels were shattered, and she was just praying on me and like, Dylan, you're dying here. This is death. Where you're headed is death. And I don't know what came over me, but I just decided, okay, I'm going to flush these pills down the toilet, which is not smart, by the way. Don't do that. I got very sick. But I didn't know any better. And I started to just try my best to make different choices I knew I didn't know what to do, but I knew what not to do, which was everything I was doing, basically. And so I came across actually one of Lee Norton's just like very simple calorie balance articles. It was like, oh wow. But I grew up in one of these families where all the men in my family are 400 to 500 pounds at 5'6" to 5'8", all of them, my dad included. And so growing up in like a Roman Catholic household, it was kind of like God made you that way. That's who you are. And then my teachers would affirm it. I grew up in a small place in Canada. And so I tried to lose weight one time. And then now here 16 years later, and I've had supplement stores at gym and a bunch of different coaching businesses. So I really love the idea of being able to transform. And I've been obsessed with wanting to give that gift to other people because I know the difference from not having it. And so that's what really set me on my like individual journey to like transformation. And
well, let me ask you on that point then. There's a lot of coaches that are coaches, but you're a transformation coach. And when I say transformation, I don't just mean a totally transformation. I mean, you transform everything in that human being that you work with nowadays, from the mind, physiology, everything you work with, even right down to the cellular, mitochondrial stuff. Is surface layer coaching the issue with retaining a client long term?
So in my belief, and not to say that in my way is the right way, but the way I look at rebuilds is kind of like physiology, behavior, and identity. And because I've been coaching for so long, I've got to see before I had the knowledge, like when and it's so funny he mentioned expertise. I've gotten to be a worse marketer because I have Dunning-Kruger syndrome now, probably. So when I knew nothing, it was easy for me to market because I thought I knew everything, but I knew 3 things, and I just hammered talking about these 3 things for fat loss, right? As I've gotten more complex in my thinking, it's also made marketing a little harder for me, which is something that him and I are working on right now.
And it's the opposite way around. Somebody that's very smart wants to talk about what they know, but the marketer needs to talk about what the client needs.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, he wants to talk about the physiology and the mitochondria and all that stuff. And we see this with a lot of educated coaches. They talk about what they need people to hear, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Whereas what we're working on right now is, I get that, but you stop talking like that until they're in.
Yeah. And so that's one of the changes that Mark and I made is kind of like sell them what they want and then give them what they need. And that's been a very great addition to my business. The reason that those 3 pillars exist in the rebuild, and I remember Mark at some of our first calls, he'll laugh at this, but he'd be like, hey, explain to me why the rebuild is different on what you do. And I'd start talking on and he'd be like, no, not that. And that's like making me mad that I couldn't even explain like what I'm doing, I'm just doing it. Can you just say that? No. And so, from there, I've been able to put a good framework on it. And physiology is important. I think most coaches are covering that. So when I say physiology, I think about things like nutrition plans and cardio and, training styles. There's a million different ways that everyone can deliver that. The thing is for people that have really struggled, most of the time, especially in the current economy, information is not the issue. And so the giving them those things is not the reason that they succeeded. It's always that there was a behavior change. Long-term change comes with the behavior changes, but those behaviors are driven by identity. So once I realized and saw that these 3 things are linked and I can't unlink them, I have a belief that the human body is a body, mind, and spirit. And if you try to segment those out, you always miss a piece of it. And if someone just has the identity of someone who's overweight or someone who doesn't go all in on themselves or someone who's scared, someone who has a worthiness wound, they're going to drift back to that unless it's addressed. And so that's why people can white knuckle it through a 16 to 20 week program. But after that, it's like, where are they? So many people end up back and start. And so I kind of built the theme for myself as like creating lasting change because I'm in the 1% of people to do this myself. Most people don't lose 155 pounds to take it off of 15 years after trying long. Yeah. Right. And so that just it also gave me a lens because a lot of the times what I find with surface level coaching is a lot of them don't even know what they're selling. And I can tell when they're talking about it. It's like, that's not even a problem that the customer needs solved for success. Right? You need more discipline. It's not true. A lot of the clients that I work with are very disciplined in raising their kids. They've had a job for 15 years in a career to have discipline. They're just not applying it to this thing. And that isn't because they don't know how, it's because their identity is holding them back from acting those behaviors out long term in that regard. And there's always a wound underneath when you get it. we did some of this work. We did some breakthrough work last night, just like impromptu, with some of Mark's clients here, who it's actually ties into the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's business or physique or making more money. If you don't believe you're the person who can actually attain those things and have a strategy walked out, it's very unlikely that you're going to do that.
So how? Let's take as an example. You've got the rebuild protocol. Just for everybody here, what's your average customer retention type?
Right now, it's like almost 3 years.
Anybody here want a 3-year retention for clients? Yeah, fucking right. Okay. Some of our best clients decide to build and scale like 3 to 4 years, you know. And one of the things about this that people see the value in it and don't just jump from one thing to the other is they are invested in long-term change. And that long-term change, as long as there's evidential progress along the way, and this is one of the things that we'll talk about right now is, you know, let's talk about long-lasting change. Let's take the case study scenario, and you start at physiology, right? Sure. Is there generally a pattern that you go through with most of the challenged people? Because I mean, here a lot of you get people in that say they want to get results, and then 6 months later that it's not been as fast, or they get to the point and you wonder what to do next with them. Where if we're trying to create lasting change in a human being, where do we start?
One of the things that I changed, I would say, recently in the last year with working with Mark and kind of refining this way of thinking, this way of coaching, is understanding that people do need to see physical results quite rapidly. And actually in the coaching industry right now, we're kind of all against, Mark touched on this earlier about, like, you know, in 12 weeks, they should maybe have some physical results to show for it. And we have a lot of coaches right now talking about how that's like bad, right? It's like, oh, these quick fixes. I understand not wanting to just give somebody weeks and then leave them on their own, but people who lose weight, the more weight you lose rapidly actually are the people who sustain it long term, because you have something to fight for. And so if a coach has been in shape their whole life, and they've maybe been an athlete, and that's a path that a lot of people get into coaching, they'll say stuff like, oh, you'll feel better, you'll have more energy. Yeah, well, if I go tell the homeless people outside that they'd have a better life if they had $1 million, they can kind of think like, well, yeah, dummy, like, yeah, that would be nice. They have no reference frame for success of how that feels. And so if you can create some movement for them, they're not going to want to give that up. I gave an example of identity last night. As an example, you guys are in great shape. If you woke up 200 pounds overweight tomorrow, that would be the fastest transformation you've ever seen, because it goes against your identity. You would look in the mirror and people will fight for their identity way more than they will a goal or a behavior or some physical marker, like blood work marker or something like that, because it goes against what you see yourself in the world as. And so change is going to start fast.
Well, that's a question. You set yourself away as well, so how do you with your life? They kind of hold on to that identity as well.
Of course, because it's kept them safe.
You got identity safety, yeah.
And so a lot of what I do initially in the physiology phase, let's say, I want to create some results right away. The good news is, because everyone is niched down in the coaching market, there's a million different solutions that people don't need. And so it's actually nice, because when people come to me now, I'm like, it used to be I used to educate people. That's actually how I got this like autistic type of brain that wanted to learn everything. I was like, if I know everything, you know, then I maybe be useful. And now I have to tell people, like, okay, take everything you know, all your TikTok brain, your brain aids, throw that in the garbage, and we're going to rebuild this literally from the ground up. And when I start getting results with people with like 3 simple frameworks, they're like, oh my God. Like, I had this last person, they had me on 15 peptides and I couldn't sustain that, or I was doing this carb cycling, like, you know, just extreme stuff. It's not that it doesn't work, but most of the people that I work with are just, you know, white blue collar folks who just want to be in shape and, you know, feel great, have great blood work and libido. You create a bunch of results right there, and all I need to find out is which human need is driving. There's 6 human core needs of certainty, connection, growth, and when I find out which one of those they're proxying on, so someone who has a very strong certainty drive, that certainty drive is going to make them more likely to self-sabotage, because they would rather self-sabotage and know the outcome than to just try and see what happens, because the unknown is too scary for them. If you get a yo-yo client who's like tried 15 different diets, right? They've come in, I'm sure you guys have all seen this. I tried the keto, I tried this, I tried that. They're variety driven. And so they probably have a worthiness wound, because they don't actually believe that they could be the person to embody it. So the dopamine of changing strategy all the time is the fix, even though it never does anything. once I figure out which human need is driving them, usually it's two, they're always missing growth and contribution. And actually, a lot of the folks in here that were talking, at our scale event yesterday, that's exactly what they're missing. And everyone craves growth and connection, but when someone hasn't focused on those areas of their life for so long, it's like a muscle. If you don't use the muscle, you forget you have it and you use it. And so if you can show them some wins and they start to grow and change who they are, it gets addicting. Because if you grow, then you can contribute. And so many people are riddled with anxiety, and it's like, is the definition of anxiety is you thinking about yourself. That's rumination. So you can.
And I feel a little bit of a self-worth identity is that holding clients and understanding them a bit more. But if I want to be more about what you're talking about, the 6 basic human needs, things like that, what is that? What's that come under for us to do that? Yeah. It's called this.
Yeah, so, yes, he is, which he took from Jim Rohn, actually. Yeah, and there's been a bunch of variations of this. And so a lot of the great thinkers, I've been very lucky to be mentored by a variety of people. I spent a lot of money on education. But I'm just going to be really honest, because I used to try to have an answer for something that wasn't my answer. Yeah. I've been very blessed to have gifts from God. And when I was younger, I would try and explain favor and gifting as if I did it. Part of that also is growing up in a very violent, extreme household where I became a practical psychologist, very early. Because I had to learn to read emotions because it was going to keep me safe.
Yeah.
And so even last night when we were having a conversation, someone recorded us in kind of a deep conversation. I think it was you took a story. And my girlfriend texted me and she's like, baby, you're doing the thing again. And I'm like, what thing? And she's like, you're looking at people like a hunting dog. Because I'm just like locked in and I'm watching everyone's faces and every person, the speaker that come, I'm watching their body language because I've studied that. And so if I get someone on a call, I just have to ask the right questions. And so it's never me telling someone like, hey, your identity is broken and you have these issues. I just have to shine a mirror, right? Because most people will tell you what's going on if you're paying attention. And so practice, and then having a gift of pattern recognition and being hyper interested in people. That's why it's not really hard.
I think that's a great one. I think there's a lot of coaches that I come across, especially when we're to sales calls, is you're a talker rather than a listener. And if you listen enough and ask questions that have not got a yes or a no, but you ask questions that have got a context to give you back, then you listen to what they give you back, and they're feeding you with, this is what the problem is and this is what I need. Or, as you just said, this is how I behave, this is how I respond to things, this is what keeps me stimulated, and this is what I think I'm missing, right?
Yeah, and it's usually honestly just a skill gap. Most people have these, we were talking about this last night, in today's modern culture, especially with spike culture and like what I call the world of facts, right? So we were talking to someone last night and she was like, yeah, but I know what's going on, I know what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, that's cute because you're talking with your prefrontal cortex. Like, yeah, you can look in the mirror and know like, oh, I do these behaviors, I do this thing. But you're running on your amygdala most of the time, which is your animal brain. And so being aware of something has nothing to do with how you see yourself in the world. And so I just have to watch people's aggregate behaviors. And then once I show them that it's a skill gap that you can learn. And he talked about this actually earlier in business. It's emotional capacity is a huge thing that I teach. I teach resilience, fortitude, and adaptability. And all 3 of those things have a specific definition of how you handle stress and how you handle like emotional turmoil. And most people don't fall off their fitness because their fitness is broken. It's everything else in their life. And that when I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm trying to actually fix their life, but I'm working down here. And so 10 years ago, I went, okay, I need to learn how to work up here so that I can work top down. As an example, I just went through a course and just finalized the course. It's a terrible process. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. My own fitness took a hit in the last 2 years. And so that even made me more aware of this very thing, because I was like, oh, if I've been doing this for 50 years, it's so baked into my identity, it's harder for me not to do this than it is to do it. And if this struggle for me, so when I'm working with a person who's only been trying this for 6 months and they go through a divorce or a job loss, we can only think of things in a hierarchy. And often we think people think of things like this, as if like, oh, I have my job here and kids here. No, you have something at the top of a priority list. And fitness probably should be 3rd or 4th for most people. And they're trying to shame and guilt themselves into putting it number 1, and that's how these yo-yo sightings happen. And so just guiding people with the proper map, knowing that their emotions are going to dictate how they see the world, And their identity is going to cause what they act out in the world. So their inputs will get loaded into their life, which create their outputs. And once I study someone for just a few weeks, it's very easy for me to say like, hey, did you notice that this is what you're loading in the system and this is what's coming out of it? Holy man, no, I didn't realize that these three things were all attached, and I do that over here and I do it over here too. Okay, then we can get working on a strategy for your unique life to walk that out so you don't have that goes out anymore, and your life will change.
Do you think to the coaches here, one of the skills based on what you just said is just awareness? Not just awareness for the coach, but it's like, are you aware you're doing this? And bringing that to conscious awareness, because a lot of people are acting subconsciously.
Sure.
So that conscious awareness of, can you see you're behaving like this? Is this something that the guys should take away to, do you, like in the early stages of helping somebody lose weight and this being a lasting change, are you looking for, the way I used to do it, and I know you have a different take on this, but I didn't do the awareness straight out the gate. I kind of do the 60-day money thing. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I see where you're at. I know what patterns you're in. All I want you to do is follow this. Now, that's got a blessing and a curse, because there's only a certain amount of time they can give me their all. And it backfired on me many times. I got as my skills as a coach developed, I got more of the type of clients we love here, which is, I'm ready to make 10K a month. And they fucking do it. And then they get 10, 20, 30, 40, and you're like, fucking great. However, I also know that it's not the way the world runs. Because as emotional human beings, we've got behavior, we've got conscious, subconscious, we've got trauma, we've got all this stuff. And then everybody in this room will have a different pace in which you make money. Everybody in this room will have a different pace in which you grow your business. Every person will have a different way that you respond to the performance coaches talking to you about certain things. Some of you will go into your shell and go, you bunch of wankers, you're calling me out. The others will be, fucking tell me, I want to know what I'm doing wrong. So when you get clients, well, they will. They'll be like, I know I'm fucking about. Like, what do I need to do? You're very direct, Steve. You just said to me, just fucking hit me. I just need to know. But others are like, you talk to me like that. But that's just a skill of being a good coach. So if you have somebody with a lot of weight to lose, what is kind of an early adaptation thing that you would do in the first 6 weeks to give you that feedback as to this is how I need to coach this person?
It's a good question. And so I think part of it is what you're saying, to the degree that I think they're capable, right? So it's like someone who's 80 pounds overweight is not going to get cracking on nearly as much as a guy who's done 3 shows and maybe just got out of shape a little bit because he had a few kids, right? There's a reference frame for success. And so I use that term a lot because that's what's going to dictate how someone performs. Where you've been is going to dictate kind of what you could follow up. And I actually am very honest with people. My brand is like brutal honesty with love and grace. And so I try to lead like a Christ-based heart posture where it's like, hey, you are not okay the way you are. And everyone around you might be telling you that it's crap. And you know it's not. That's why you're listening to this message. And so first off, here's the things that I think we can do. Because most people ask themselves what they should do, what they could do. I don't care about that. I care about what you would do on aggregate, because those are different. What will you walk out for a series of weeks? And I want to get someone feeling good. The nice thing about someone who's overweight, giving Mark's example, it's pretty low-hanging fruit to get them to feel better, because they're usually doing a lot of bad things. And they have all these deception stories. And so when I was talking about seeing the world through a narrative or a story, right now, if you ask most people who are severely overweight, if I just went on the street, it's like, they would have a little awareness, so they might say something like, oh yeah, I like my snacks. You know, and if I want to call like someone like that, I might say, I love my chocolate. If they're 100 pounds overweight, I'll say, listen, I see you, I hear you. I know personally what type of behaviors have to be acted out on aggregate to be 100, 150 pounds overweight. If people watched you eating every single night on a tape and that got out and leaked on social media, you would puke. It would be the most humiliating thing you've ever seen. It's not the same as someone who's just carrying 10 or 15 pounds. This is a problem. It's a real problem that needs being addressed. And so I want to answer Mark's question, I want to tackle that as soon as I can. I have mirroring questions, especially in the start of things. And they think they're for them, but they're for me. And so in one of my check-in questions, I'll give you just a simple example. It's a multiple choice question, and it'll say like, hey, we're 4 weeks in now. Is there anything I can do to pour more into you? And it might be more accountability, more grace, more explanation, a clearer plan of the options that I have. Whatever one they pick, I don't care because that's nothing to do with me. It's a mirror for them. So as an example, if someone says, I need more accountability, I'll message them in their check-in and be like, hey, we already have I have a very high accountability touch points. It's like we already have we have the full check-in and 2 micro check-ins a week, plus you have access to me, plus full resource library. You're seeing and hearing me every single day in your customer journey. So what could I do to be more accountable? And then I already know the answer. I'm just asking that as politeness. I say to them, or do you think it's possible that you're actually creating more accountability from yourself? And you're upset that you're not doing that for yourself and you want me to provide it for you.
So let me unpack that for a second, because that is not allowing the person to default to blame. Because I think a lot of us, when we're coaching, we allow the client to default to blame. So I need more from you. What you've done, and I've seen you on some of your videos, you have a collaborative discussion so they own that part.
They have to, and we talked about
try and
this.
unpack what you're doing today.
We talked about this last night, and this is a word that you liked. I view, a lot of people will say like, oh, well, I just don't have the motivation or I don't have the willpower. Those are all chemical states, just like anxiety. You can create them with the right influence. And so first off, most people, so this is the change framework. If I can walk people through this, I know they're going to change. First, you have to surrender. And as coaches, we often think that someone who's paid you has now surrendered. In the modern culture, them paying you is the act of them thinking they did something. It's the psyop for the real work, because the work starts when you pay, not because you pay. Now Dylan's going to go and do it for me now. And sometimes people will pay 3 to 6 months with me. So that, let's say they do a 6-month out the gate package, it'll renew and they're like, geez, I didn't make as much results as I wanted. And I'm like, yeah, because you just started to surrender last month.
Yeah.
Because you just started to admit that. From surrender, it changes your heart posture. Right? And knowing something in your head and saying it out loud, I make people talk out loud to themselves all the time.
To get someone to surrender, but I'm going to use that on a sales call. If you're going to surrender, but if you to surrender, what's the surrender scenario?
Sure. So in this case, where I use the accountability example, because I just had this the other day, and I brought to this young lady, I was like, hey, are you maybe craving more accountability from yourself? Just her asking that, because I've created the opportunity for people to communicate with me very openly and safely. All of a sudden it's a paragraph of like, yeah, I've been like this my whole life. I could never do this, I couldn't do that. And so that's a surrender. Her saying that to me, other than to herself, now it's out into the atmosphere. What gets brought into the light will get sanitized. And so now it's out in the light. From there, once I create surrender, we need to create a decision. And the word decision comes from the Latin term decidere, which is to cut off all alternatives. Okay? Once you've made a decision, you've all done this, guaranteed. You've all been in a relationship, a job, went to school, quit school, done something, where you make a decision. I heard you talking about an ex-boyfriend. There was a day where there's a process where you're kind of like running around and you're like trying to figure out what to do, but then one morning you woke up and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it. Decision made. Well, it's not, oh, I'm going to text him next week, and that's all done with now. Once you make a decision, that fuels commitment. You can't be committed to something you actually haven't decided, and a lot of your guys' clients who are not seeing results haven't decided. They haven't surrendered, then they haven't decided. From there comes motivation. Motivation is a chemical state. Motivation comes as a chemical state from you moving towards a goal of self-perceived value that you stated for yourself. Not what your coach told you was the goal. Not, oh, you'll feel good if we get you down 20 pounds, etc. They have to state it. And so a lot of what I'm doing is shining mirrors so people will tell me what they want. And oftentimes people will play it so small, right? Like they'll come in and be like, oh, I'd just like to lose 20 pounds. And I tell them straight up, I'm like, you're 70 pounds overweight. I want to see you look like your favorite superhero character. Because once you have it, you won't want to give it up.
Surrender. What was the second one?
Decision, commitment, and motivation. Mark, I guarantee you, because you're smart enough, if I don't have to turn around, he could look at this list and go through where I've struggled in my business journey, where we've been on 4 calls before I surrendered to something. Do you know how resentful it is for me to have all this information and see a bunch of TikTok kids making 4 times the income as me?
Yeah.
So, he'd be frustrated, and I'm like, he's like, no, just redo your VSL. I'm like, yeah, it's like, okay, then I have to go away for 3 days and realize Mark was right, I should redo my VSL, right? Or I could talk about, well, I know this and I've done this and blah, blah. That's not going to help me make a decision and then get committed and then get motivated to do it. Right? Yeah. You got a question, Stuart?
Yes, so I've got a client who's very much in denial, and how do I get her to surrender to the fact that actually she's not throwing the kitchen sink at everything?
Sure. And so, could you? And I would love to do some of these Q&As, like client Q&As, like real stuff. You guys have it. It's gonna be a lot of fun if we have some time to do it. But like, could you walk me through a little bit more about specifically what she's in denial about and what you'd like her to see?
So she believes she is slipping to a calorie deficit. The scales, we've all heard this, the scales are not moving.
Gotcha.
And then she's not in a calorie deficit. Any check-in is very much, I'm doing all of this and I'm not seeing results. Yes, we want to notch the steps above 10,000, no. We want to get into the gym, no. So actually, she's not taking all the advice because she thinks she's doing everything. And it's a very, difficult, to the point where I'm kind of this might not work for you and we might not have to continue this relationship because I feel I'm doing everything I can do to help her and she's not listening to herself. I'm actually not talking about it. There's a dishonesty there maybe.
Yeah, and so not to put you on the spot, but say I come to you with this check-in today, it's the third time I maybe said, go on, check in all the boxes and we know that this is not adding up. Like, what have you said to prompt her to potentially look at me into this?
So I've provided her with a tool to use at the weekends because at first we thought, this is definitely the weekends that are the issue because yes, on paper, or one, providing she's staffing properly, we have that discussion as well. But at the weekend, when you're eating out a lot, something's not right here. So I created, I use ChatGPT to do a bit of an AI analysis meal tool and asked her to use it. It's not been released. So then I broke up, well, do we need to use the tool? Or around the step side, if we can notch from 10,000 to 11,000, too much pressure. That's too much pressure on me.
Well,
It's that kind of
I think I could help with this.
Oh, amazing.
And so, how I would, and this is a lot of speculation because, and if you want some help later, you can put the case and I give you a better analysis. However, I think right away, I hear a worthiness and a perfectionism.
Yeah.
Probably there's a wound from having felt growing up that the love only came when something was an achievement, an accomplishment, a success, and taking on adults' emotional sort of states as their responsibility. And so this whole yo-yo 80-20 stuff. Hey, we're doing a serious thing. I would look at asking her why she doesn't feel worthy of a transformation. And I bet you if you get her on a call, you ask someone that stuff and just watch her eyes, I bet you they'll start to well up. And so, this is kind of when I'm talking about identity. All the strategy in the world will never fix something that you truly believe that you are not capable of. Mark probably sees this with so many of us, where if we're unlocking a new level of identity to grow our business, but you don't feel worthy of making money for whatever reason, maybe you didn't have any growing up, maybe you did, and there was comments made in the house, there's going to be something holding you back, and he could say, just make the VSL, do the thing. You won't do it. You won't act it out unless you really believe that it could happen for you.
And do you believe as well that I've obviously coached for many years? We used to have the assessment room at M10, if anybody's ever gone there before. And if any of the coaches were struggling with clients in your situation, I used to say to them, have you been in the assessment room yet? And they went, not the assessment. The assessment room was basically the deep questions. Mm-hmm. And the question, it was just a metaphor we used to use as a coaching team. They would say, I'm really struggling with this client. It's been 3 weeks work now. And all the team would go, assessment room. And the assessment room was, let's go for the tears. And the tears was the question that is exposing the hidden emotion. And I remember once I was working with a lady and she was out of shape. And I went in and I said, come on, it's been about 3 months. Come on. I sat down and I said, who are you doing this for? Who are you doing this for? And she burst into tears. She said, he's a bastard. No, she said, he's a bastard. And I said, who's a bastard? He goes, he said I'm fat and I'm here because he wants me to be in better shape. I said, cool. She'll go train. And she went, what do you mean? I'm like, well, now we know he's a bastard. Do you want to get in shape? And this was just the way, because I knew her. I said, so are we going to do this for you or for fuck him? And she's going to go, I'm going to do it for me. I'm like, cool. So every time you come to see me now, this is just for you. Whatever happens with you and him happens with you and him. So let's do this about you. Anyway, that particular scenario, that I'd worked there for long enough, she had gone, fuck him. And then she wasn't doing it to fuck him. She now decided to do it for her. So the situational awareness for me, which was this surrender in the decision, was, fuck, I've been trying to do this for him. I'm like, but have you wanted to do it for you? She went, absolutely. I'm like, great, let's fucking go. And I didn't entertain the tears. I just allowed the emotion to come out, and we cracked on. She lost like fucking 20 kilos.
Usually when you can't get someone to move forward, it's because you don't have the proper leverage, because you've probably listened to why they said they wanted to do it, which I don't believe anything clients tell me, to be honest, never.
Can I ask you about quite a different one? It's a really joined on program, and she when she came to end of the sandwich, she actually joins the new one. And then after one payment, then the change in jobs at work, and she doesn't have the money right now. And I know it's BS, and I know it is because she hasn't made any scale progress, and she's quite overweight. She want to lose about 80 pounds. And so these are long routes. I try to do what you do. I love the layers. I hate surface level work. I do a lot of lessons and lots of calls and talks like for identity, like where it came from. Is it childhood? What was said around you? What did you witness around you? And eventually, after the end of the first 10 weeks of no change, she was like ball fired, all bells and whistles, every check-in. Yeah, I've done this, I've done that. And so what I do with them often, when I get to the point where you can't really keep saying, well done, let's see what happens with the awards weight next week. I kind of say to it, scientifically, if you're in a deficit, you can forget that. To maintain the weight you are now, you have to be eating 5,000 plus calories at least. And so I say it without trying to be judgmental, but just trying to let them know you can't kind of lie your way around it. It's better just to be honest. Try and keep the door open. And she did admit that the weekends were a lot harder than what she initially said they were. And then when she dropped a massive bomb, I forgot about 11 weeks, and just as she started back up, she told me that she, as a young teenager on holiday, she'd been raped. Parents hadn't known about it for years, which had changed. And she said that since then, she's made herself overweight to be unattractive to men. Then she had sexual assault, then taxi, just 4 years after that. And she's in her 50s now. And that was when she was 16. And so she's been overweight her whole life. And she's seen the therapist at work who'd said that in 3 weeks of working with me, they'd never seen such a vast improvement in just a small window. For me, kind of trying to reach on a level that just wasn't, let's all pretend everything's okay, because I don't like that. You're not losing weight, something's not working out, it's not your fault. Let's really get to grips with what it is. But and so I'm really disappointed that she's kind of like giving up. I don't think the job scene is a real thing. And I don't know what it is, but she told me that. I thought that was just what we've been able to surrender, right?
Yeah, but it's because she's certainty driven, and a lot of people who are living in fear over faith. Faith and fear both require you to believe in something that hasn't yet happened. But if you're scarcity and fear driven, you would rather be certain that I'm going to be fat and unattractive to men. So that's why I can get going really well, and I start seeing indications of progress. That scares me, and so then I push back. And now I go out on the weekends and I create this full cycle, which then creates a shame, a guilt, and a blame loop. And to be honest, I might get canceled for saying this. I really don't like conventional talk therapy the way we've set it up in Western countries, because these are things I set people free for, and I've just seen too much, I guess. So, and this is my perspective. I'm not saying anyone can't have a different one, but I can set people free of this. I hope I can do it tonight. I was having a few conversations with a few people last night just on how they're maybe holding themselves back from their business in these very same things. Where this can be gone in 10 minutes, but you have to feel the thing once. And particularly women, a little bit more men too, but particularly women, think they've felt it. And I take a lot of the wisdom from the Bible and the Scripture. Christ references lots of times, basically a phrase that says, when you burn off the dead wood of the old person that you were, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When I envision what weeping and gnashing of teeth is, it's not like a little cry, to my friend. It's going to look something like an exorcist. And we're going to feel that now. And we're going to get all of that out. And so I guarantee you, if I was talking to this lady on a call or in person, even over text, I could probably ask the right questions and distract from her. I just did this with a 62-year-old woman on a call the other day. To give you an example to land this plane. she struggled with comparison, judgment, perfection. A lot of people struggle with this. And so then I asked her why she thought she was like that. She went on and she told me this whole story, and I said, how many siblings did you have growing up? She says, three half siblings. And I said, whose love did you crave more growing up, mom or dad? Dad. Did he pay attention to your half siblings, maybe slightly more than you? Yes. So do you think that you're actually comparing yourself to everybody else, but it's actually just one or two siblings? And then I saw the tears start to well up in her eyes. And it's like, I'm 62 years old, and I've been living my life based on other people's preferences. And as soon as you point that out to a fully fledged adult and can show them the evidence of that, most of us don't like that enough to have leverage to change it.
And then, by the way, yesterday we talked about sales a lot. A lot of you say, what is the goal that you have? And they go, weight loss. And you go, great. Do we talk to you about the model I have? And it's never going to happen. Do you go, you want to lose weight? Like, for how long? And they go, well, for the last 15 years. What happened over the last 15 years? Well, it goes back to when I was 15. Do you mind if you talk about what happened when you were 15? And as you start doing what's called in sales, chunking down, which is doing coaching, which is chunking down, the self-realization that, fuck, and this drives urgency, because now they have a self-realization to why the patterns happen that no one's ever helped them understand before. And then when you show them the bridge and the price, they're in. That's selling. Because selling is about going down to remind them so they can understand and self-identify why they should take action, which is what you are essentially doing with all this questioning process, to get them to own the decision. And owning a decision drives urgency in business and selling. But you guys create no urgency because you have no depth. And great coaching creates great depth. And that also builds a relationship.
It does. And there's different opinions on this. When someone's signing up with me, I literally tell them, this is going to be a deep one-to-one intrusive process. This is not, here's your plan and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I need to know everything that's going on that affects your progress. And then they'll ask, what affects your progress? Your relationships, your communication externally and internally to yourself, your money stress, your relationship stress, how you view yourself, your model of the world, the frame of thinking that you have. Carl Jung has a great quote that's something like, most people think they know how to think, but what happens to them is thoughts appear to them and they accept them as axiomatically true. Yeah, and so most people just have thoughts that appear to them and they're like, oh, that's it. And then they run off like a squirrel and they act on it. Yeah. And so when I can show someone like, oh no, you just haven't been taught sequence and game theory. And so when I can show you that there's an order of importance to the decisions you're making based on the outcomes you want, usually it's not that hard to get someone to see that and start acting about some different behaviors.
Probably a pattern into that question, but I find almost always, if I get a client, I do a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it? Almost always the client that says 10 out of 10 doesn't buy. And there's something else that I notice. I call people definitely people. And when you chat with something, they go, yeah, definitely 100%, something, yeah, well, they're always the ones that don't buy. Or the ones that do buy, they say, you know, how important is it? That's 7 out of 10. Well, why did you say it a 6 or a 5? Well, because, and then, so how do I quickly interrupt that pattern? Like when they're talking, they're like, yeah, I'm saying, yeah, whatever it is, I'll pay it, and then they ghost. Always the same types of characteristics. How do I stop that and say, actually, you know what, mate, you're bullshit, connect with me, let's get real.
Couple different ways, and it sounds like you're a pretty straight shooter. So I think I'll give you the first way that I would do it in your case, probably more better for your ICP. I would ask them to articulate back what that means in observable behavior. So you're 10 out of 10. What does that mean you're willing to commit to, or have you committed to? Based on that being 10 out of 10, they will tell you whatever they think that is, which there's going to be a pattern interrupt because they're not going to have expect with the question. As soon as they start answering, you're going to go, that's a 6 out of 10. 10 out of 10 would be this. So you've now reframed their reference frame for success. And then you tell them, I don't mean to be a dick, but the reason that you said this was 10 and it's actually 6 or 5 or 4 is because you have no reference frame for success. And I tell people this straight up. So everything you think about this whole thing is useless. You have the competence of a 6-year-old child in this regard. In this small subject that you are, in this small box that we're talking about, that's your competence. It's not you as a person, because a person is made up of 1,000 of these little sub-boxes. And over here, you know what you're doing. Here, you do not know what you're doing. That's why I'm here to teach. And in a world that is so full of bullshit, people crave truth now. Yeah.
Love that. Let's switch slightly, because we talked last yesterday at the dinner table about hereditary type, and identity shifting. Because obviously this drug's come onto the marketplace now. You guys are in the fitness industry, in the weight loss industry, and everyone's talking about it. But we talked yesterday about the importance of possibly bringing this in to facilitate identity shift in the early days. So you've had your own experiences, journeys as well.
Sure.
Please.
Yeah. And so I'll first off start by saying, I don't know a 10-year prediction, but I have a pretty good, after 10 years, I don't have a good prediction because there's a few things that can happen. But in the next 5 to 10 years, everyone here who either thinks that like peptides or GLPs are like, just do hard work, bro. Get that out of your mind right now because you're going to be left off the train. It's not going to happen. They're already testing peptides and drugs that solve for all the problems that the GLPs have. And so there's a real world in 5 to 7 years where people will be able to inject the physiques that we give them without going to the gym. We're talking about myostatin inhibitors. We're talking about G security drugs that have no side effects mixed with GLP drugs. This is already being tested by major pharmaceutical industries and it's working very well. And so there's a real world in which people will just take 2 shots a week and look like full-blown six-pack at natural human potential. But that doesn't change any of the identity or the behavior that went into creating that. And so I was having a conversation with someone last night. The good news about that is, unless they can figure out how to do it oral, which I don't think they're going to be able to, people actually don't inject themselves for a lifetime. And so there's going to be, after that, God only knows what happens. But to come to Mark's question for the GLPs, if you can think about them as behavior modification drugs. So if you have a client asking you about them, or just like you're curious about them, and it's not so much us as professionals, but we have to understand what culture will feed into a group of people. And so when folks who are obese are taking this thing and they're getting, whether it's Ozempic or tirzepatide or retatrutide or survodutide, mastutide, any of the common GLPs, once they take that, they think it's the thing. Like, I injected the thing and the thing did this. No. The thing allowed your brain to stop having like so many signals that you were able to act out a behavior over an aggregate period of time to create results you always could have created. It's just that now you didn't have this screaming, whining bitch voice looking for dopamine every 2 seconds because a pattern that you fed over time will crave itself. And it's all about comfort and satiety in the spirit for these people. Some people use drugs, some people have sex, hedonism, steroids, it doesn't matter. I've seen it all. People who are overweight, they're using food as a cope mechanism. That's exactly what they're doing. And this interrupts that pattern. You guys want to know something crazy? This just happened to me. It's happened to me a few times. I've had a few clients go on GLPs, send me a voice note or a text message, crying a week later because they opened the cupboard and they didn't want anything in there.
It was comfort.
It's like giving a child a baby blanket where every night they put themselves to sleep with the blanket, and then one day you give them that blanket and they're like, what's wrong with this? I'm not comfortable anymore. And they throw a temper tantrum that they can't get the thing. And so it's like, see, it was never about the food. And when you can get them to realize that, that is actually an identity shift because they've told themselves some stupid narrative like, I'm addicted to sugar, or like these little buzz terms that they hear on the internet, and they've just embodied that identity that was never theirs. They can see something different. And so as someone who lost 150 pounds, and I've always been a little bit I was a bodybuilder, okay, so lab rat's not a problem for me. When Ozempic came out, I didn't like the mechanism of action, so I kind of stayed back from that because I knew it was going to cause digestive issues that I knew I'd be paid to fix, which is totally true. When the second iterations came out, I was like, okay, let me try tirzepatide. I took my first injection. 3 days later, I took my second injection of a very low dose. I remember driving. I had a gym, a bodybuilding gym at the time. I'm driving from the gym. I turn signal at the same turn I go every day. There was a Burger King on the corner of that street. When I was fat, I loved Burger King. And I got around the corner and I got about 200 yards away and I had this light bulb turn on and I was like, I didn't think about getting a Whopper today. This is the first time in 14 years I've ever thought that. Because I need a very strong will, and so I've just been able to like hold this thing together through sheer force, and I've been paid, so I've had a lot of leverage because my whole social media brand, bodybuilding gyms, like me getting fat again is not really good for my money. I kind of like money, and so I've had this leverage to hold it. But then I realized like, oh my God, this is going to change the game for people, and because I have felt that before, I knew what it was going to give to people. And this was a couple of years ago, and then I realized, like, I have to be more open-minded about this.
So you're saying you need to not
Like if someone is inquiring and they're now it's different if someone's like 15. You guys talking about kilograms, so if they're like 10 or 15 kilos overweight, depending on the man or etc. Like they just, oh, I got a wedding coming up, and I could do the thing, and I mean, I don't love that. Would I say no? Depends, but if someone's like 50 kilo, 60, 70 plus kilos overweight. If you've never been that before, I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing they're ever going to do in their life. It's the fight of a lifetime. Any help that you can get them to support them on that journey is so well worth the conversation. Now you want to talk trade-offs, and it doesn't mean just here balls to the wall. And the cool thing is, the doses that they're using in the prescription models are like 3 to 4x what I've ever had to use with a person for success. And then they'll tout like, oh, you have to stay on them for a lifetime. Yes, because in the prescription model, the drug was the only thing causing results. But when I'm changing behavior and identity at the same time, I view it like a bridge.
Yeah.
It's a tool that allows them to cross the bridge. Once they've created the results and now they've baked in identities, because I have such a long runway of most of my clients stay between 18 and 36 months, now they're a new person. And so we can slowly taper out the thing, and they don't freak out the second they get hungry because they've been taught emotional resilience, fortitude, adaptability. They've been taught tens of skills over that time. Plus they have the knowledge of what food is, calories is. So they've built up all this armor and weaponry to go into the new battle. And when they've created change that they've never had before, I'm telling you right now, when you've been that overweight and you wake up in the morning and your feet don't hurt, and the seatbelt doesn't touch you all weird, and your clothes don't fit like shit anymore, well, you don't want to give that back. You'll fight for it. So that's a new identity now, and people will defend identities.
Justin? Yeah, alright. So I have a client, he weighs 180 kilos, and we talked about the GLP1 as well, but he said, no sir, he didn't want to use it. He eats obviously well on emotion, on the struggles, on the feeling and everything. So what, if not the GLP1, what would your approach be to help them shift so that they reduce the amount of time they eat on the emotions, during the struggles that inevitably come through in the weeks and the months while they are trust and rest?
So I have a suspicion that if I was to talk to him about the GLP, he probably would have said no, if I'm being honest. Not because I would have been convincing, because I think the way that they're talked about is so just not true. Because people believe, well, I'm going to have to be on it forever. They have all these misconceptions, and if they're not explained what I believe to be the truth, they're not going to make the right decision for themselves. And because the way a lot of fitness coaches have framed it, they view it as some form of cheating or something. Get that out of your mind. And if you're one of these people, I'm telling you right now, you're using your value of success based on your physique and the things you have to do for your human status, and then putting yourself above other people, that's an ego and pride check. Right? And so we could still ride horses. There's a reason cars are going down the street. Technology advances. You're all using AI instead of typing what? Because it's easier and it makes more sense. Right? And so same idea. Now, if let's just say, because some people are just like against it, that's fine. And I never tell people like you need to be on this. In fact, I don't even suggest they do it. I point out the way I frame it, and I think this is useful, Sockerfeld. As a coach, if this technology existed, and I was going through my transformation, and Mark was coaching me, and he knew about these technologies, and a year later, I found out that I went through what I went through, and it was available, and he just never even brought it up, I'd be choked. Because I'm a full-grown adult, I can make my own decisions. Thank you. I want them presented to me, that's my job. And so here's the upsides, here's the downsides, here's where I view it would help you. If they say no, I would really look at environment. There's a reason that Alcoholics Anonymous has a decent success rate. It's because it forces you to change your environment. And a lot of people who are obese, everything that they are their whole world is to do with getting that food in. The friends they're hanging out with, the and I'm dealing with a young man right now, same thing. I asked him right now, I was like, hey, what snacks are hiding in your room? He was like, no snacks. I was like, bro, don't bullshit me, man. And he was like, oh yeah, I have the Oreos here, I have that. I said, you gotta go in your room right now, this is surrender. And you gotta send me a video of you throwing them in the garbage today, right now. Don't wait, the second you read this message, I want the video being filmed already. Get downstairs, get your room, and throw this out right now. They're always hiding. And part of the reason people are that obese is because they want to hide from the world. And so you have to get them, you have to coerce them out so that they can surrender. And then usually just being having an honest but loving conversation. And I think male coaches struggle with this more, especially the ones who have succeeded. It's kind of like, bro, just gonna do it, which has truth to it because the behavior, action, I'm a big action person. But how you make somebody feel when they are surrendering is going to determine if they will surrender. You can see a lot where the client might be on the bridge of surrender and the wrong statement from the authority figure makes them triggered, and then they step back and fall back.
Which approach would help to include those things? Because obviously they're going to shut out all the horrors in that moment, because that moment you're telling them they're feeling like, right, let's just do this, fuck it, in that moment, and they do it. But then, if you're always saying at night, their own brain's going, just going by the boys. Do you like try and include the treats in for them, or do you have to do money they got, or is it depending on the client?
It does depend on the client, because some people are all or nothing thinking, which comes to do with the 6 human needs. And so it depends on the person. Some people can do okay with a little moderation, but I would say, if I was just speaking generally, a lot of the times when someone is like in this client's case, 100 some pounds overweight, everything about what you're doing, I literally tell people, okay, the reason you have what you have is because all the behavior you're loading into the system is all stupid shit. And so we have to figure out how to do smart shit that you'll actually do.
So in a way almost, and this is kind of because I've had clients before where I've said that I'm not even in such a diet right now because it's a hell of a sugar. I know they're not going to listen to me. I know it's going to trigger them. I know they're going to backlash. They're going to say they're doing something up. And I say, let's just really work harder. Establish the beliefs on what's happened in the past. And we talk through a lot. They start doing things without even realising. They just have to change their habits just because we're working on that side rather than the food kind of follows it. In a way, it's weird because they consume, they want to be put in a strict plan, they want the results, and that they want that. And then I'm saying, so I don't think we should stop with that. I don't think that's going to work. There's literally a point. I think we need to start. We can try, but I think we need to have the heavy focus on that side of things, and then that'll follow.
I took this from Mark, he doesn't even know this, but there was a couple of calls we had where, let's just say, because I have a call with him once every week or two, 4 or 5 calls had passed, and then he said, well, I'm happy you've been up now. I was kind of waiting for you. Like the last 3 or 4 calls, like I could tell you were in this state, but it wasn't my place to tell you, like, hey, you're thinking about this wrong, because he's like, I know you would have just probably pulled back, so I let you kind of feel enough pain. And so I started thinking about that for my own business, and I went, okay, I'm still trying to jam people into like the system instead of realizing everyone is going to have their own pace for things. And so now, to me, direction over speed. And you have to celebrate pitifully small wins that as individuals, you would just go like, this is so trivial. Like the fact that you took the stairs 3 days this week instead of the elevator, which for most of us in shape, it's like, it's not, but you have to get like childlike excitement for them a lot of the time because they have no self-belief at all. And so if you could just be, honestly, you guys, caring, I could get emotional talking about this because I see it so much. Most people don't have one person in their life who actually believes them. And the people they think believe in them are actually sabotaging them with nefariousism behind their back without even realizing it. If I ask someone, who do you have to go to tell good news, and they don't make it about themselves, they usually don't have to answer. And so if I can be that person for someone, people just proxy off my belief. Because I tell them, you're not broken, you're not stuck here. You, by the grace of God, can change. It's going to take effort, and it's going to take some help. You've already taken the step to accept that and be here. You are going to change. And I am so convicted in that because of the gifts and skills that I have that they start to. I've had many people tell me I didn't believe it until I started to see it. But I thought you were some crazy guy telling me all this stuff. And then I just realized, like, no one's ever talked to me like this, so maybe I'll try this.
Just I advise, she's very honest about her overeating. She is obese. We have questions coming with me now, I'm saying 2 maybe from the trees. But I love her honesty. However, she's not making progress at the rate that I like for her so very young. But I suppose, how do you get somebody to shift their belief, if at least their belief? I suppose to my belief at the moment with her is that she didn't believe that she were. But how do you get her to shift from that?
worthiness wounds are a little bit tricky, speaking generally, but find the underlying root. So basically, when you ask someone why they're doing something, consider the first 3 or 4 questions you ask. It's nonsense. And so if I was to ask her, like, why don't you think you're worthy? She would give me some answer. I already know in my head I'm throwing that in the garbage, and then that's going to reveal how I ask the next question depending on how she answers it. That one's probably going in the garbage too. Then the next one. Then maybe by 3 to 5 we can get to the truth, and the truth is going to cause surrender.
Yeah, I actually feel like that's starting to happen because I've got her on a call and, she's had an overwhelming week or whatever. And one of her reasons at the very start was that she had said was about longevity, she worries about her health and worries about getting cancer or worries about those types of illnesses. And I do remember feeling like I don't think that's enough to kind of, hey Ray, the last call I had with her was this week before her next check-in, and she did break down in tears, and it was kind of brought up around her husband. They had a little bit of a disagreement, maybe they have 2 small children, but she also worked with him in this company. But I suppose more so after the call, I was kind of thinking about it, and he's also overweight, quite obese. So I suppose this comes back to environment.
Environment is pretty hard to override. However, for most women, I'll give you a cheat code. They have something to say or do today that if they did, they would have none of this anxiety that they've been living with. They've swallowed down their own needs for so long. She probably has something to say. And so when I get that out of people, I make them do it.
She has, and she also shared with me that I know that she's enjoying her tennis. And she did actually admit, when I was celebrating the fact that she's regularly doing the tennis, she's enjoying it. And she went and, I suppose, transitioned from doing doubles tennis to playing a single game, which she was really proud of when I was celebrating that with her. And she actually got emotional, and she said that I told others in my family they just don't realise that's such a big deal, because for her going even to do any exercise was just so scary.
And
So
a lot of
I
the
think
time with the worthiness wound, I'm going to be honest, as much as I'd love to say you could speed run that, this is kind of what I was talking about, where sometimes it takes 6 months of a little bit of, kind of bumping off the bowling alley lanes to then finally surrender to be able to say or do the thing. Honestly, guys, you don't know, like in the last 2 years, I've seen people leave their jobs, get divorced, move across the country. That's the thing. That's why they were having problems. They had something serious to do or say that they weren't doing. And if you understand this, you can understand human behavior pretty easily. The human brain has this amazing survival instinct where if you feel like something is really scary or really hard, and you're scared to do it, especially if you haven't worked the muscle of like practicing going into fear, right? The brain will insert a thing underneath that's almost equally as hard to distract you so you can feel like you're doing something. So you don't live with guilt and self, right? So it's like, how many times have you guys heard something like this? You'll get a check-in, and it's like, how was the week? Give me an overview of your overall week. You could ask that question a million different ways, and they're like, you know what? My steps were nailed. I got my water. I went to bed, and I got to the gym. And then in that check-in, I'm like, hey, how come you didn't mention nutrition at all in there? So they proxied all of that other stuff, because that's hard stuff too, going to the gym, but it's not as hard for them. And that could be strength trainings like this, for everyone's different, right? But just watch what they're not saying too, and it's like, that's the thing you're avoiding. And then if you ask them why they're avoiding it, there'll be a thing. I feel like I don't have time to meal prep. That's because you don't know how. And that's where you can get into the skill gaps. You reduce fear by closing skill gaps.
Yeah.
You can feel this in your guys' business right now. I guarantee you, if you were scared of ads before you came and did that wonderful talk, you're less scared now, more likely to act it out, because you remove the fear from closing a skill gap with knowledge. Does that make sense?
We'll have one more, and then we'll go into hot seats.
You pick.
Really interested in stuff about myostatin inhibitors. Basically with the GLPs, we are almost able to help people use them more safely, so they're not losing a stack load of muscle. You stand out the myostatin inhibitors. How far away is that?
like it's in clinical trials now. My assumption is it'll come out gray market 2 or 3 years.
I mean, so far.
And so also just to correct that a little bit, because there's a misconception that GLPs cause weight loss. No, they don't. They cause the exact same weight loss that calorie deficits do. They just never compare to that. Like you lose muscle when you're in a prep, you lose muscle unless you're doing a PED enhanced one, and even then you still lose some, just not as much. Every good contest coach knows. What's that? Yeah, up your chest. I'll override this. Yeah, exactly. And so with the myostatin inhibitors, there will be muscle growth and fat loss at the same time with no hormonal side effects.
So with the myostatin so far, as far as I'm aware, it's been used on the underground market, but it's gone systemic. And so the problem is that they're getting organ growth as well. Would that be right?
That's correct, yeah.
So you're saying that only a few years from now in the grey market, they will be able to cite like that?
Guaranteed. And the gray market's much closer, and this is my belief, so I'm getting into some neuroscience here, but like the gray market's way more connected to the pharmaceutical market than we'd like to believe.
Yep.
I think there's a reason it all comes out of China. They actually like that the gray market exists. Bodybuilding has always been ahead of the curve. We've been the test dummies for everything, for the history, all of it. Any of the cool stuff. It's like, because bodybuilders will be like, that sounds good. Bathtub stuff, I'm on it, right? And so you get to see a lot of anecdote. And that's how just seeing the amount of anecdote that we see, and actually this morning 4 peptides got moved off the FDA ban list. Compounding pharmacies now in the US are going to be able to do MOTC, APC, CMAX, DSIP, and so a bunch of them have come off of this list, and so this is going to move faster and faster as time
We'll
goes
make that job a little bit harder. As I say, we're saying not using muscles, and then myostatin inhibitors come out.
So as a coach, how do a coach prepare for this onslaught of drugs?
The answer is I don't know. The answer that I'm going to give is exactly what I'm doing. Because when I come into someone's life, I've been so blessed to see people hold on to marriages, get raises, and level up their life across all metrics, because I'm teaching them a lot more than just like bench press and these things, that's cool, that's important. But learning how to be more valuable than just doing what a computer could do. Because to be honest, when coaches go on and they're like, oh, now with AI, it's really hard, and in my head, this might be really egotistical. AI is dumb to me. My AI model has never taught me one thing. I have to teach it stuff all the time. All it's done for me is given me a place to put my brain. To be honest, if AI has taught you something in something you're supposed to be a professional at, you're not near as good as me. Because the model's not that smart. They're like a 130, 140 IQ. Until they're a 190, I'm not interested in looking at them as being smart. So it's like, same idea, right? So it's just finding new ways to be valuable. That could come from community. It could come from a whole bunch of different stuff. It doesn't have to be like the specific deep work that I'm doing. Creating other avenues of value that aren't just lifting weights and a training program and a cardio program. Because that's where AI is actually kind of good. Like it could do that pretty easily for someone who's willing to follow it. The good news is most people are not information short, they're behavior short.
I also think while you're dealing with a human in a human service-based industry, yes, they need us. And I think that then comes down to, there are always going to be the people that will click on the ads and say, I just need an ads agency. Good. Go and do the ads agency. I like to call myself the end of the line guy. You're the end of the line guy. Look it, we're all in this room, the end of the line people, right? Why? When I had M10, my gym, they all used to come in and say, I've done Weight Watchers, I've done the cabbage diet, I knew I should have paid you a long time ago. Have you ever had that? I should have come to you a long time ago? There you go. We're all the end of the line.
Also, one last thing just to leave you. I don't think, because we never talk about this, we talked about ads and now the DM strategies have changed. And if anyone's been doing this 5+ years, it isn't the 2020 market where Mark just talked about this. You could throw up some transformations. I also don't think we've grossly underestimated how many people are self-prescribing themselves GLPs and took themselves off the market. Like, way more than whatever you think, 10x that number in the marketplace. The good news is most people don't stick with it, and I'm already seeing how they tried it. They got some initial results, and guess what? They either got injection fatigue because they lost 10, 20 pounds and then couldn't go any further. And so without behavior and identity change, it'll still only create a small amount of change. And if someone has a far way to go, they can never get there, which is struggling.
Has anybody here had anybody come to see them who's already on TRT? Anybody here had anybody come to see who's on TRT and still fat? No, but like not where they want to be, right?
Same idea.
It's the same fucking
It's just
idea.
a few years
And TRT's been going on many years. I even when I was coaching, the amount of guys who would actually be saying, honestly, I'm taking TRT, and I was like, why have you got this for? Do you know what I mean? Because he said like that. I thought it was going to get me back to where I want to be. They thought the thing was going to do the thing, but this thing was still there. And I was like, bro, you're still eating shit. That's the behavior thing. And he was like, what? And then here's the thing. As soon as he got the behavior sorted, he was like, as you know, it happens with all of them once they get the behavior over that side of it. Right, guys, just we'll ask some questions to do it. Before we go and have a break, I'm just going to bring some chairs up. We're going to do a bit of a hot seat. Christine, you all right to jump up?
Now?
Yeah.
Of course.
Please. Is Resh here? Georgia? Jump up, please.
Also, if anyone has any questions after, you're welcome to ask me. Like, $100% there. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, honestly, I don't try to play tricks. I try to be very upfront with people. I can tell that you're fighting this. I can see you're wiggling out of it. I call it wiggling out of it. I can see you're squirming. You're trying to find your way out of this hard situation. You're trying to keep yourself off the bottom floor. So let's just go there. Let's feel it once and let's start signing out, because you're never gonna do this kind of trying to wiggle out of this. You're supposed to go every time. Yeah, when I teach people this, they're minding it. They're trying to do it this way. They're trying to get me what they do then make a decision. Reason it decision. Certain motivation. They know they're going to get out of it what they thought, but you can't create that type of certainty.
Good, guys. Thank you for that. Okay, so before we have the break, what I wanted to do, you guys have had opportunities to chat. Some of you just haven't spoken to other people. There's 4 of our clients here that not only have been with us quite a while, and actually some shorter than that, but you guys are all here because you want to grow a business, you want to make more money, and we've got people here that are making more money. And so one of the hot seats opportunities for us to do is to what shifted? What did you do? What did you focus on? I'm not just going to throw this out to you all, but be forthcoming. If you want to do 25, 30K, 40K plus, and if this is a goal of yours, these guys will have not started yet, right? And so just from so everybody knows where we're talking to. Resh, what income were you? I'm not going to talk about where you are now. What income level were you at when you started your online business?
Probably about a year ago when I first took me, I was
1,500, 2,000. Georgia? Well, you were not coaching online.
No, so I had face-to-face PT, but I was a full-time gym manager. So my face-to-face PT was purely just like a bit of hobby on the side. So like 1,500, $2,000, and then my main wage was just full-time work.
Full-time work.
When I started,
Not necessarily with us, but even your journey. I think let's talk journey as well. Online.
Yeah, so I started so far online. Like when I first started doing it, it was emails and e-transfers, which is kind of like Wise Payments or something. Maybe you guys have, I'm not sure, but it's like no systems. It was nothing, And I started with Mark basically about a year ago, and I had just exited a big bodybuilding team that we had built, and I just decided I didn't want to do contest prep anymore. I just kind of outgrew it, and it wasn't the deep work that I wanted to be doing that I'm so blessed to do now. And so I came to Mark after kind of walking away from a bunch of stuff, kind of in a fashion where I just was like, I'm leaving now. Like, I can't do this anymore. And so I walked away with basically nothing. And so I was at like $6,000 revenue a month, I think, when I hired Mark, when I decided to take the rebuild to Euro basically a few days ago.
Christy?
I actually started online coaching just because I wanted to earn some money besides my... I studied communication. And then I saw that things were going well. I knew that I had something special that people wanted. and my followers grew and everything, and I decided that I wanted to do online coaching full time, but I had no systems. It was like a complete chaos in my life and in my business and everything. So when I started with you, I was at probably 9,000, yeah. 65 clients on my own, and so tired.
I remember that, very, very overwhelmed. Well, let's just rattle through this now. Resh, where are you consistently now, roughly?
The last few months, between 10 to 14,000.
10 to 14, Georgia?
Consistently 2025.
Consistent 25.
50.
50.
Yeah, 23,000 and 2 coaches and 110 active clients.
Amazing. Great. Well, this is amazing to hear, right? Because there's lessons in all this, right? That I want you guys, by the way, to interrupt me at any point, because if you're like, fuck, I feel that. Oh, questions. Yeah, a bot. Right? But I want to go through and just ask some questions, and I think what I'd like to do is to just have everybody else's response is that going along each part, what is one thing you've let go of as a person that's enabled you to climb through certain layers that wasn't marketing and sales? Yeah.
Have something like an identity.
Yeah.
It's something I'm still working on, but that's the one thing, the belief that I can actually do this.
But is there so what did you at certain point to go up a certain level, was there one thing that you kind of let go of, a belief about yourself that you specifically let go of?
So much more just that every time you do something and you see it work, it obviously spurs you, isn't it? But I think the big thing for me was when things don't go well, not to have that self-sabotage it's not working, but just to move on, try something different. And I think that's one big thing that I've learned.
Love that. Georgia?
The belief that it's possible to earn that amount of money.
Really?
Yeah, I fully remember when I was introduced to coaching concierge, Simon was talking about like other coaches in the industry that he knew, that you worked with and you were working with. And he was like, oh, such and such is earning X amount, such and such is earning X amount. And I don't even know if my son was successful, but I remember saying to him, I was like, that's just bullshit. They're just saying that as a marketing thing. I just didn't think it was actually possible to earn that much. So I think, same as like what Reshma says, so when you start and the income starts increasing, and then it's seeing that it's actually possible, of being around people that's just a normal part of their conversation. Maybe it was that with the belief that actually I could.
Did it take a while for it to be okay to have that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a while to be okay to have that conversation, but then also the people that I got to know, when it then just becomes a normal part of the conversation, or people that you know that are having even bigger conversations, that then made me feel like what I thought was a big conversation about big money. I was, oh my god, that's like so small compared to what they're talking about. So it really opened my eyes to like what is actually possible.
Got that. Good.
Pride and ego and identity. So much like Mark, I think that's why he's been such a great mentor to me. I was a co-founder of a supplement store chain across Canada. When I left, we had 28 stores. They're at about 45 now across the country. I had one of Canada's destination bodybuilding gyms, and I was part of the biggest bodybuilding team. Like 600-700 clients between 4 of us, and there's a lot of status that came with that. And I grew up in the fitness industry. I've been doing this so long. I've grown up on social media. Everyone's seen all my biggest screw-ups, all my biggest wins. And so I think in the last couple of years, like going through a divorce, kind of secretly knowing that I wanted to leave those businesses. And I'll be honest, I've always had favor in the online space. I've never really had trouble getting clients to a certain extent. So let's say like 20 to 30K, I've made that basically indefinitely, kind of just from results and like referrals. And I had to swallow down the pride and ego of like, okay, I know all this shit, but I'm a terrible marketer. I'm not good at messaging. I don't have any funnel set up. Like I don't have a business. I have like a hobby thing. And then I had to kind of walk myself through that. Even though you've had these other successes, I have to start where I am, right? And that's what he's helped me through a lot. So definitely just like swallowing those pills down. That was my version of surrender.
Love that.
the belief that I have to do everything of my own has really changed a lot. And I would say also, as I talked about yesterday, like this is the first time I actually admitted to, yes, I started online coaching because I wanted to earn some extra money, right? But now I've actually started to believe that I can live while doing this, but not just earn good money. I can actually become rich.
Yeah.
And I'm not just an online coach.
Just even that, I was like,
I'm so excited. I
This
can
was a
actually,
breakthrough for you.
it was, yeah.
yeah,
Big breakthrough.
definitely. Yeah, I'm not just an online coach. I have a coaching business. I will, like, as I said, within 2 years, I will have the biggest and best coaching company in Norway. That's a promise to you guys. Yeah. Yeah, and also just I went on a spontaneous trip to Miami last week to see Norway England play the World Cup, and I've never had that freedom and money and the road. That was amazing and like a really good confirmation. That I'm on the right path. It's like a big step for me.
Love that. Okay, let's just get into kind of marketing, leadership, and kind of sales. What's a big marketing kind of bottleneck that you've overcome throughout your journey so far, Fresh?
I think talking to my audience is the big thing. I don't think I had my decision was good at all.
Right.
I was very confused, and I think just honing in on the pain points and my content has changed. It's gone 360 really since I've joined this program.
Well, and have you seen a change in the quality of the client or the engagement? Like, what have you seen as the result?
Yeah, definitely. And the people that apply to work with me are definitely more in line with what I'm offering. It's still a work in progress. But I think I'm pulling it well. I'm myth busting a lot more. And I think people come to me because they know that they trust me because I'm obviously a doctor, but also I'm trying to keep it real as possible. And very similar to you, Georgie, we both talk about hormones and supplements. Breaking all those myths and just giving the women the hope that actually it's not something that they have to live with, and just all of that stuff has been something that for me has been really useful.
I love that. Georgia?
Just being really clear on my messaging. And I think that it came from, like, probably anyone that was like a PT will relate. When I used to PT, I was PT. So then going into the online space, although I was more clear on who I wanted to work with, I wasn't pursuing it. And I remember you said to me, it was about 2 years on the call, I'll never ever forget it. And you said to me, well, you're changing your content more often than you change your knickers. And I was like, I got really upset, I came off the call, I was like, Simon, Mark said this, and it really pissed me off. But it was right, and like actually just being really clear on who I wanted to work with, who I felt was the easiest for me to get, who had I got easy results with over the years, who did I find the most enjoyable to work with, and just not being afraid to repeat the same thing over and over and over on social media. I used to feel like, I didn't post on that a couple of weeks ago, so it needs to be something different, so that it's not just the same thing all the time, but actually understanding that the more you repeat yourself and you say the same thing over and over again, and the more you will attract the right person.
Okay, you got to bang the drum.
For me, it was just not only leaning on one client acquisition source, basically, and some arcs helped me set up. I'll start doing some webinars. In the last year, I've recorded like 300 podcasts, 300 YouTube videos, started to build out an email marketing list, some of which I had prior. So, just having all these different avenues of collecting customers that isn't just that one single strategy, being reliant on that. And then I'd love to say I haven't figured out. I'll be real with you. I don't. I still am kind of frustrated with my messaging because I know in a setting like this where I get a long period of time, it's no problem. I can get on a podcast and I can articulate what I want to articulate perfectly. People genuinely will listen to me. Tell me to do that in 30 to 90 seconds. I have it's just very difficult. And so I'm still figuring out. I'm so much better over the last year, but I know I can still do way better.
Tracking data, spending more time in DMs, and David's magical ad skills. Thank you.
Maybe it's magical ad skills. Yeah, no, so just elaborate on that. Spending time in the data, what does that show you?
That showed me the exact numbers and DMs that I had to send to get the exact sales calls booked, clients, and the money I want to earn.
And has that
And that really helped me stress out.
Really?
Because I knew what I had to do to get. That's why also I can say that I want to earn this amount of money within 2 years.
People always ask me what is predictability, right? That is predictability.
Clarity removes fear.
And clarity removes fear,
That
right?
removes stress and uncertainty.
Can just come on to sales calls and they'll say to me, I just need to know what's how do I develop predictable leads? It's like, predictable leads is just knowing that it's going to happen. And if you know you send, like we, yesterday we did 85 outbound dials, we got 6 triage calls and we got 1 closer call. And our average should be around about 100, but if we can get 50 and get 1 call for 50 for 1 call, right? So I was talking to Ali and Ali's like, we need to shoot for 50 for 1 sales call. So if that's 50, 100, 150, it should be 3 sales calls. Well, then if I train my sales team and we get the funnel right, then we can guarantee a sales call from that funnel every single day. And if we can guarantee 2 sales calls from the DMs every single day, then that's 2 predictable funnels that guarantee 3 calls a day, which is 15 a week. Now, on top of that, if we also run ads to a VSL that brings in 20, then we end up with fucking 34 book calls, predictably. And I think that's the thing, that when the data looks at you, and people go, but I get some leads here and some leads there, you can almost now say, I will have the biggest coaching business, because predictably you can see that if I scale it, it's going to grow. I think that's if you want predictability and peace of mind and confidence, then allow the data to tell you what you're missing. You know, okay. Leadership. You know, there's a lot of coaches in the room here at the foundational level of leadership. I'll go in reverse order now. Like, Christine, hiring people is a challenge.
Yeah.
Training people is a challenge. What's your biggest hiring and leadership lesson from the last 6 months?
Well, I need a good system, so I need to know what I'm teaching people. And I still need to work on that to actually have a better system and structure in my in the coaching process. I just hired a new coach and I need to work on the coaching structure fast. But also just have a close-up relationship in the beginning and really follow
More time with them.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the beginning. And as I've experienced now with my new DM setter and total of 3 people I've hired, that either they become better and they want to do the job properly, or they don't become better and they never will. And then you fire them.
What's that? You make great art in your ops.
Yeah, and so recently, I get a little nervous talking about this because I've noticed a pattern where it's different for many coaches, and I don't want to make anyone feel a certain way, and then I end up feeling a certain way when it's how it is. But Mark really pushed me to hire, you know. So we went through a process of, I had a setter. She was a nice person, but really wasn't getting it done. So I got a really good setter in there, and then I hired an operations manager now too, because I can see clearly that like I can solo my way to 50, 60K months kind of, but I'm an insane person, and I think it'll be more fun having a team. And so I brought in an operations manager, and I have a really good setter. And I'm looking at maybe bringing on someone else too in the very near future. And it's been just a blessing to not feel like I have to do it myself. It's given me a lot of purpose and meaning for the business, because now there's other people seeing the great work that we get to do. And both of my staff are actually coached by me too, interestingly enough, because they got seeing it from the outside, and they're like, hey, I want this too, actually, for my own personal life. And so it's been a lot of fun, and just realizing that it's okay to like ask for help, need help, and go through the pain of maybe taking a step back, like in profit margin, to take some steps forward, because I want to do like 100K plus months. It's kind of my goal in the next 6 to 12, and I think I'm on track to do that. But I never would be able to do that. Like right now, I'm sitting here, and Mark talked about this yesterday, with the help of the team that he's placed me with. my operations girls was building my whole webinar. It's awesome that she's so competent. And that would have been me, like not sleeping last night, answering all the Stefano's questions on Asana and all that stuff, where I just open it and I'm like, good, perfect. Tell me when it's ready to teach. Looks great.
Same thing. While I've been here, Stefano's been keeping an eye on the behind the scenes, been doing stuff. Cecile's been doing the stuff. The sales team are running. There is one thing that you and I kind of butted heads on. We just had some big conversations on, which was hiring a coach because your competence of either no one could do it better than me, or I just need to do more. There are coaches in this room who will or are at the level where their client numbers are going to continue to grow. You hired, but that's been a sticking point for you.
Still is?
Great. Do you want to just talk through that sticking point?
Yeah. Not really. This is the part that I actually said made me uncomfortable, and then I just decided not to talk about it.
That's why
Which is, and so when I was bodybuilding coaching, I serviced myself with like spreadsheets and WhatsApp, like 255 athletes by myself. And so now, and I built that capacity up to where like 100 feels like I'm not working. And you guys could play this. I could give you guys my computer. I have 107 clients right now. If you told me their name, I'll tell you how much they weigh. If you tell me their name, I'll tell you what they're struggling with. I have the great systems, but I don't need it. And so, but just because you don't need something doesn't mean that it's not smart to do this. Because I remember Mark asked me so simply, it's like, why don't you just bring on a coach, put that coach at your price, and then double your price? And I was like, that sounds kind of nice, actually. And so, I think I've held pride and ego of my capacity. Growing up, it was always about like how hard I could work, and I was programmed like a working dog side work, and so there's always been like value that I've extracted personally from being able to do that when other people couldn't. And so I think now it's like I'm still chewing the pills down to surrender that like, hey, and I've mentored other coaches and I'm good at teaching, and so I think it would be a lot of fun. Having brought my awesome staff on has actually opened me up to that more, because I'm like, oh wait, there's so many coaches that I could teach the things I've learned, and then they're going to be able to change more lives. And so the company could actually grow that way, in a way that isn't just me trading all my time for money, like even though good money, definitely, because I would like to get to the point where I only had, he asked me like, how many people do you think you need to keep your act sharp? And I just instinctively said 25, and he's like, that's always the number I give. And so he's like, there we go, we're going to work you down to 25 clients. And I was like, okay.
I thank you for sharing this, because I was talking to Rach yesterday. There's two sides of it. There's really good coaches that believe that the only way that they are seen to be a very, very good coach is if they've got a high portfolio of clients. And I spoke to Dylan, and I was like, if that's the definition, which is an identity, my identity is the only a good coach. There are some great bodybuilding coaches, you guys all know them in the industry. They'll be doing 150, 200 clients, and they're on their WhatsApp, their quality of life is terrible, they're absolutely exhausted, but their identity is rooted around, as long as my numbers are high, then I am a great business owner. However, having been in the industry a long time myself and coached hundreds and hundreds of people, are you giving 125 people the best? And I said to Dylan, if you gave 25 people for $1,000 a month, your best, they could get more. They could get more. And the point is, no one said, no, I give everyone the best. I'm like, it's not true. It's not true. It's when you've got somebody in a restaurant and they're waiting 20 tables, and then you have 3 waiters and each one does 3 to 4 tables, the 3 to 4 tables get a better service. You've seen this in restaurants. You've done it yourself. They're running fucking ragged behind the whole restaurant. How many servers? 1. Right? And then they bring you over a fucking beer so they don't drink it. Right? It's like, sorry about that. And then you literally give bad feedback. Eventually it happens. I've seen some of the best prep coaches in the world, the bodybuilding coaches, lose their clients. A doctor that wants to get the fuck out of the NHS, right? A doctor that wants to get out. We've got Dale, who's trying to get teachers out of teaching and into doing life coaching remotely, right? Using Scale, right? And then what you end up realizing is that one of the gifts of being able to be a CEO of a business is time, because your actual true gift is not coaching 110 people. It's passing that knowledge on to other people. Yeah, I know you're going to be sitting there right now. Do you think I wish I could get better coaching?
I could expose myself a little more just for teaching purposes if we want. And so when Mark first proposed this is how you know ego and pride will sound like help a lot. That's really useful to know. It doesn't sound like some nefarious thing. It sounds like a helping voice. And so when he first brought this up, because we kind of butted heads on it, and he said something like, well, if you have 125 clients, you're not going to service them the way you would at 25. That pissed me off because he's right. So by definition, he's right. But then my ego and answer is, show me any other coach that's beating my service or quality of care or results. I don't care how many clients they have. So it automatically went, wait, it's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said, would your service be better if you had 25? By definition, he's right. And then I went and proxied my value against anyone else. That's not the question, right? And so then when I chewed on that, I'm like, he's right. And that's nothing. Why am I making up this nonsense that has nothing to do with his point?
Can I just add something to that? Because my first co-star started a year ago. She's at 75 clients now. She's full booked, and I teached her. She's very happy with her clients. Her clients get great results. She's very proud of herself. I'm very proud of her. She's very grateful to me that I teached her everything, because she started as an online coach a year ago. And I'm very proud of myself that I can teach how to be a good coach and see that her clients get great results. So that has kind of been a new pride for me. Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
It is a transfer. I'll quickly tell you this. I always was worried when I started to move away from coaching and started to teach. And I started to have a room like this. And I had a room of 100 coaches teaching about loss of physique development. And then it'll be every couple of weeks, I get this little bit of and I'm not actually coaching. And then back to Carissa, she said to me, why do you do this? And I said, well, because I can help more people. She was like, you're scaling your influence. And this is a real big thing in coaching, is the reason why we bring on a team is to scale our influence. Because while your creative content are bringing people in and your coach is serving more people at highest level value, that's the reason why hotels, the franchises, and everything grow, because they're scaling. And so it's not just a case of, but if you want to scale, you want to remove yourself. It's actually you become involved. You know, Georgia, you when it comes to kind of like leadership in your team, I know you love your team and do an amazing job.
Yeah,
What within the last year probably would you say is your biggest leadership and training lesson?
It's going to sound like really harsh when I say it, but I don't know how I'm supposed to, but not sacking people quickly them. And like, from a setter point of view, I've had it a couple of times where the setter's not performed. I everything to the training, they're still not performing, but just kind of holding on to, maybe I can do more, maybe I can help them more, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, rather than, and actually just stuff.
If you say it was a performing, what do you measure? So I could also, for example, throughout this, also separate diet. This will be a short letter, so it's RBCs to make center from the specific goals. While they're all, let's say, moving forward, they also not require it. So how you determine then whether the setter, if it's in not performing as you wish, then you can really peel that down to, okay, he or she's lacking capabilities or lacking anything.
Mine's purely just call booking. I think from like what I said earlier with my content, I don't have the issue. I don't really ever have someone get on a call that's not the right avatar. They were always the right avatar. I did used to get that, but then now my content's better, I don't get that anymore. Mine is now purely just the amount of calls getting booked and the quality of the conversations.
What could you book?
And then you track that into end back.
Plus, you can still set a goal for them based on the current problem you have, because I have the same issue to some extent, where like I know for a fact my center could be doing better if my messaging and my content was slightly better. My current goal is that relative to that, and it's an educated guess to some extent. She's just starting, so it has to nelly over time. But like if I view if at my best we could book 15 calls a week and she's doing 7, it's pretty good, because I take blame for, let's say, half of that not being there. But if it's 0, well, I don't take blame for there being 0. My accounts always produce something, right? And so if that was the case, then it can be like denying it in return.
So what I would do with all these is exactly what they've said here. If I have a new closer coming into the company, who's relatively new, you set a KPI aligned to their knowledge, their skill, their expertise, and a KPI aligned to any deficiency in the business. So as Dylan just said, if your content is not aligned as a messaging, How many calls could you get booked in a week if you did 4 hours a day in the DMs? 7. So you could. So if I send you away now and did 20 hours next week, you could book 7. And how experienced is the setter? 3 months. 5. 5. What, 3 to 4 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours a day.
4 to 5. 4 to 5 book clubs. Put that as the KPI, and then you give them, they call it PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. And if they're not hitting them right now, and you're improving your messaging, and you're able to do 7, you put them on 4. And if you get a month, the 2 to 3 weeks of 4, you just fire them. Gone. I know that sounds ruthless, but no, seriously, no. But here's the deal. I will give you all the training. You need to do a half an hour call every fucking day. 5, 3, 1. 5 weeks, okay? You're literally on a call with them every fucking day. I'm going to be brutal. If you're not on a call with any of your setters for half an hour every single day, you shouldn't give them a KPI because you're not training them. Right? I'm on a call with mine every day for half an hour. Training, there's a structure, there's a KPI to hit, and then there's disciplinary if it doesn't happen. Right?
But I also feel that eating away, it's a 3.5 hours a week. Of course, training, right? The training is it doing and just showing?
Bro, it's making money.
Yeah, I know. But
But if your perception of sitting there having to do calls with people is for fuck's sake, then you shouldn't really be running the business. Because for me, to do half an hour on call with someone that books me a call that can make me 10 grand, I'll do that every day of the fucking week. If I can do half an hour a day with 3 people in my company that will book calls that will inject cash into the business, they're doing 5 hours and I'm doing half an hour. So I've reduced my whole workload by 5 hours a day, but I've got double the people doing it. And they literally send me a start of day, end of day at half an hour. Now, there's 5 weeks. If they're on track for KPI, you drop it down for 3 weeks. You drop it down to like 3 times a week, and then drop it down to 2 times a week. And then you've got a start in the middle and then the week, and you just really count WhatsApp. It has to be aggressive. The training process has to be aggressive. Couple of months, if that person is trained in that time, and you can honestly say, I've given them everything, then you have to fire them. That's the difference between a company stagnating or I will tell you categorically, and I'm not sitting here Mr. Perfect. I had a year, and the guys know in the company, where I dragged my heels with my setter, wanting them to win, because I didn't want to fire them. And I want you to win, but their performance was going down. And then I literally got a call and said, 1 more week, if we don't get KPI, and then at the end of the week, gone. And then I have somebody waiting in the wings. By the way, a little tip for you. One of the best things you could do when a setter is not performing is bring the other one in now and have a month overlap and play them off against each other. You've got a 7 DM setting target, and then the person comes in and just goes pa 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 when we brought John in, right? Bam 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 every single day, and the other one's like, what the fuck? And I was like, bro.
I think too, if you're at like a 15, 20, 30K, you could kind of get away with it. And Mark knows this too. I did the same thing for 8 months. I had a setter, and I really liked her actually. And I'm a people person. I connect with people. I don't know how to not do that. And so I felt that, etc. And we had many talks about it. Finally, let's just do it. I was very lucky to find someone who actually lives in my local area. She's awesome. I went from 35K to 50K in the last quarter in the summer. May, June, and July. And so that's the only thing I did different, besides maybe a little bit more time with the rebuild existing, me getting slightly better at messaging. But most of that increase in the slowest season of the year came from having that hard conversation. Fire very getting.
Yeah. Well, she bought somebody in the
Yeah, I mean, similar to George's, for me, it's trusting my gut instinct. You know, my setter, I had one for 3 months, he was just listening, also listening. I keep having dating Kim, so you'd root videos. They're doing some last guy, and partly he was going through trauma, and I didn't want to get rid of him, but at the end I had to.
Yeah.
And I got someone who's so much cognitive mouth.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of just letting go and have some situations going on, and just, I knew early on that he wasn't lying. I should have just trusted him.
Sam, I wasted 6 months now.
Pricing, sales, money. Okay? Three big movers that's going to obviously move one of the biggest parts of the business, which is the revenue to the business. Over the last year, whether it's something to do with pricing, something to do with selling, or something to do with your relationship with money, out of those, what's one thing that's giving you the biggest shift direction?
Well, again, yesterday, relationship with money. That hasn't come into action yet, but I feel like the next year is gonna.
It's coming.
Yeah.
What's the relationship, by the way? Because I think you said something to Simon about it always kind of like the whole money thing. Is that do you feel that that's kind of like coaches kind of it's not a bit of a poo-poo subject to the kind of the financial side?
No, not really. But as I said, I just wanted to do online coaching because I wanted to earn some money on the side.
Yeah.
And then I decided to do it full time. So then it was about surviving. But now I realize that I can actually earn really good money. And yeah, last couple of weeks I've been traveling. I've had some great experiences. And I set some big financial goals for myself. So I've become more comfortable with money, and I realized that I want more. Like in a serious way. Yeah.
Sales, pricing, money.
Can I just add that? Because I wanted to say that yesterday also when you talked about raising the price. It feels very uncomfortable to raise the price on your coaching. Once you do it, you raise the value of your coaching as well, because it's like a commitment to yourself. But like my experience is that I have to raise the price to raise the value of my coaching and the quality of my coaching.
Yeah.
That they come together. So if I don't raise the price, I won't raise the quality of my coaching either. So
generalist, specialist, expert, authority. Okay? If you perceive yourself an identity level and you are charging regardless of what you perceive your educational level to be, if you're charging as a generalist in the industry, you're aligned to an identity of a generalist. And therefore your self-belief, your self-worth, the level of content, your messaging, your positioning, right? Then you step up to specialist and you go, I'm the specialist in this particular field, and this is what I do, this is what I charge. You immediately, you don't sit on an ivory tower, but you fucking know you're a step above. And that brings different messaging, different certainty, different credibility. And then you move into expert and authority. And all these different levels give you a level of authority within your context. And it's not, by the way, I'm better than you guys. It's just, you're speaking from a place of authority because you're commanding a higher price point. Think of anything that you go to. If you go to a dental clinic, or think of you going to any kind of facial work clinics, you walk in and it's like, you know, £500 for the treatment, £1,000 for the treatment. You walk in and it's a beautiful Harley Street clinic or whatever it is in London. The premium, right? It makes you raise your game when you put a price tag at that level. And so if you've never done it, then you're really going to be playing the generalist game. Play the higher game and then everything changes with it. I've always found that, even in Nottingham when we were charging double for PT, you know, even when I've charged more, it's not just been about the bank balance. Of course, it's a status, but an identity shift as well.
Is that but at the moment, thanks with cop as well, because they're pressing anything. Yeah, because something that you do will PT back in the day, you know, so PT full charge hard. They're committing to you your price, but then they can be whatever you invest out.
Did you know what? Even clients at Ellie Fitness in Newark, which was a small market town, people said to me, Mark, you do know that when the women are going to the toilet and you tell their brands that they'll work with you, the trainer says 50. They're £45 an hour and you're 85 or 100. They'll probably go with that. I might let them. And the women would go in and they'll go, yes, Mark's done with you. They said it with pride. Like, as if, like, you guys got designer handbags, right? When you have a designer handbag next to like a street handbag, like, in a crazy way, some people who value really nice handbags but can't afford one will see a status shift in that. They'll feel a status shift. Some people that don't value handbags, like, you know, I don't value 50k watch. When I see one, it doesn't do anything to me. But somebody that has a value on watch, that has a £2,000 watch, sit next to somebody with 50 grand, they'll feel that because they want to get to that.
Maybe in a typical volume, years and years ago, used to work in the beauty industry like 20 years ago. And do a little bit of psychology around fires and things like that when doing, they did like testing where like some needs after their periods and they're treated by the other and things like that. And I think like it relates this in sense because when you're when you're spending money on something more money, therefore say about the investments and what they see of you. I'm saying to you the expectations. So it was like you take yourself on serious in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pricing, sales, and money, big shit for you over the last year. Something had one of those.
There's been a lot. One of the hard fills for me to slow down, but just like if I'm being really honest, is realizing that I've actually done my growth is not that impressive relative to how long I've been doing this. And that's because I, again, was proxying a lot of my success on what I did, not realizing that I just have God's favor. Because I think I'm being used as a vessel to change lives in this aspect. And so for me realizing like, oh, okay, I have to learn like all these funnel systems. I have to learn profit marketing. I have to learn messaging. And that came with me bumping my price a few times over the last year, actually, and get comfortable with it. I actually had a breakthrough on the way down here where I'm walking and feeling like new things. It's actually really nice. I've been kind of work on this for like a year. I'm laying it right down. I texted my girlfriend and I was like, I'm starting to write a book, and I'm gonna be an author. I'm gonna be someone who changes lives going mass. And I did out.
Decision.
I made a decision.
Yeah.
100%.
100k higher and writing a book.
Let's
go. Georgia, something around sales, money and pricing that's been a big breakthrough in the last year.
I think my sales skills have got better from being, my sales skills used to be like this long.
Coffee boy, I didn't see that.
But I think to get to where I've gotten to, no one used the word look, a lot of mine came from referrals. I was a personal trainer for 10 years, so I had a lot of clients that went online locally. Service is very good, retention's very good, and 80% of my business was off referrals. So in doing that, it meant that sales calls were quite easy because before they've already got on a call, their friends already told them it's amazing, their friends have already got results, all their family's on the team. So then getting on a call, they're already pre-sold. So then there was a point then when it was like, right, follower growth as we just started doing a BSL. It's now something that I would say is not necessarily a breakthrough yet, but something I need to really work on now is becoming better at calls to cold audiences. And again, I think my sales calls used to be like I'm spending it to the
That's massive report, Georgia. Is that when you want to scale, when you guys want to scale, you can build organically, but you can't scale always organically. You've got to eventually get on a call with somebody who's only been following for a couple of weeks. And what this comes down to is that if you get on somebody on a call that doesn't really know you, you have to have a pre-call strategy. They've either got to watch a video, they've got to be sent case studies. It's not just nurture, they need a pre-call back-end selling system. And that back-end selling system cannot be done by getting on a call and having 35 minutes and going, well, you really are lovely. Should I talk to you about my check-in system? Because ultimately, it sounds like this is such a great journey we're going to have. And then you drop the price and they go, yeah, I'll talk to my husband. And then you're like, for fuck's sake. Now, the funny thing is, if you have the selling systems behind the scene that actually sets up that call and actually gives them everything that they need, 99% of the stuff that the objections they're going to bring are going to be dealt with before the call. Or if you have a very structured closing process. So, closing is a structured selling system that once you've gone through that kind of warm audience, you've got to bring some systems in. Fresh.
I think a lot of the brands has been quite eye-opener for me, isn't it? So for me, it's that self-belief, self-worth, but also seeing myself as an authority brand and raising the prices. So I was thinking maybe I just build this.
if somebody in the room right now has a block that you guys have all been through, what would be your one piece of advice? Because let's say you've gone from a 5 to a 10 to a 15 to a 20 10 blocks, right? Or a 5 to a 10. What would you give as your number one piece of advice to just get through a current block? Something that was stopping you at any point during the way. What in the thing that pushed you through a block you would maybe give to as a piece of advice?
Can I think about it? What you see lurks often where you don't want to learn. And so if you have an aversion to something, so if Mark says, "Oh, I think you should build a DSL," or he says, "I think you should do this," and you immediately feel yourself pull back, it's probably exactly where you need to go. There's a reason that in every proverb or every mythological story, the dragon pours the gold bird. And you have to go on a call to adventure to slay the dragon voluntarily, not because Mark told you to, not because Instagram wants you to compare yourself to someone else's money. And when you step up to that, the call to adventure will beckon you. And that's destiny. You don't get to pick what grips you. And so something's gripping you and you're scared, it's probably exactly what you need to call.
The cave that you fear to enter houses the treasure that you seek to pass. And I remember seeing that in IA, the writing on this rock. And I was like, fuck me. So if you're not prepared to go into it or do the things that they said, Georgia?
I was saying this to some guys earlier, and I'm going to go back. I was in build before I was in scale, and I guess that's similar to how we expect our clients to be. I think that the reason, so I was in build for a year, I think, and I literally went from nothing to like 15 grand in that year. And the reason that happened was, no word of a lie, any single thing that my performance coach told me to do, I did it. There was times where I was like, I'm not sure if that's going to work. There was times like I remember my construction title that I needed to send a letter out to all of my clients telling them that all of their prices were going up by quite a lot. And I was like, this is a fail, I'm going to lose all of my clients, like this is just all of the rate of shit. I didn't lose any clients, they all stayed. But there was quite a few things. Mark had me on call about this the other day. And I started coaching concierge, I think it was the October or the November, and I was a gym manager. And I'd had in my head, coaching concierge London was March after that. And I wanted to be in a position where I could hand my notice into my full-time job in the March. We had a group call. At the time, I didn't really know Mark all that well, growing in build, but I remember on the floor in front of everybody in build. Then Mark was like, "No, you're going to hand your notice in today." And it's like, you're kind of wearing us, well, today? And he was like, "Yeah, today. I'm going to hand your notice in today." And I was like, "Okay." And I did. So it was like I look back about my journey in build, and I think like it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to like have conversations, but my honest advice would be just listen to what you're being told to do, and even if you're scared to do it, just do what they're asking you to do.
That's so big. One of the things I tell clients is do equals be, not be equals do. You can think about something, and so many people proxy thinking for the actual work that is going to get something done. Thinking about stuff does not.
Yeah, I would say, actually, same as you said, actually, what has really helped me and my growth, not just with online coaching, but with everything, is to take a big step and trust that you're going to be fine. Most likely you're going to be fine. And I've experienced that over and over again. And I'm personally very emotional and like very all over the place. You know, I've been on several calls with these guys crying. And yeah, the last call we had, not the last call, because that was a great one, but 2 calls, I was just on about everything and crying, and you basically just said, "You're fine. Like, you're doing good." And that has been, that has been the most valuable thing for me.
Simon's had good training on that with me. He's like this all the time. I'm like this.
Yeah, so that's been the most valuable thing for me. Just that I'm doing good, but also tracking the data again to not be in my head and in my emotions with am I really doing good or not? But actually see the numbers. Like, I feel like this is not as good at it as it is, but I see the numbers and yeah, I'm good. So just keep doing your work, and I will have ups and downs, but
Do you remember that? There was a call that Christine came on with Si and I. And she got on, she went, well, you know, and I said, well, just get off your chest. Get off your chest what is wrong with Coaching Concierge. We were expecting her to leave the program, and I was like, just come on. Like, Si and I were like, she's in a bad spot. What's wrong? Well, this, you know, and I'm not doing well, and I'm not doing this. And then we just literally went back through her numbers. I'm like, you've hit this, you've hit that. I think she just went, I'm doing all right, aren't I? That's all it was. The whole fucking call was literally, she just wanted to go, and then we were just like, you're okay. She went, thanks. And then Si and I expected this horrendous call. What do you remember?
Massively. I think me with Christine, I think as you just see your data that your data now should be counted where you're going. This also has to reassure you are a very, very good coach. Yeah. Because your self-belief at the beginning was so wrong. And I remember I kept telling you that you're a very good fucking coach, a very good coach. You took your while and I thought as soon as you start to see the data to show you was expecting to do stuff. Yeah.
I actually have a post-it. No, I just took it away, but I had a post-it note on my desk saying you're a good coach. I've had it for a year, and I just removed it now in June. Because I was like, I don't need that anymore. I know that.
Right. Just one bit of advice.
I think to go with most people, we all go for this like next feeling, you know, something doesn't go well, and I go to this trajectory, it's working. Andrew Jonathan said this to me this week in my check-in, you're all fat, fresh. And I just thought that message would be so much comfortable. That's what we're doing. Like, you just have to be conscious that you're thinking like that and just bring yourself balance with it because it's only a state.
That's really interesting. You know, to close on this, and I can't believe Resh is alive to something that I was about to say, but you guys are expecting of yourselves something that in a lot of people's cases never really ever comes to anybody's lives. And so it's abundance, it's growth, it's wealth, it's success, all these things that you want. And some people go and do a 4-year degree, then they go and do an apprenticeship with a company, and then they do like lawyers, they'll do degrees, and then they'll go and work for a company, and then like 15 years later they open up their own practice. You know, 6 months, I was £250,000 a year, you know, £500,000 year business, £250,000. Like, these coaches are doing it in 2-3 years. You know, 6-figure businesses. Yeah. Outside of trading in crypto, like, this is fucking wild. You guys are on track to be billionaires. It's fucking weird. Like, outside of trading in crypto and real estate, I believe that you guys have one of the fastest trajectories of revenue generation as a personal brand in the world. And if that's not going to come with emotional fucking turmoil, it's like driving a racing car and not wanting to have G-force. Yeah. Like, fuck you, hell. I don't want that. It's like, it's coming. So the emotional resilience and the identity shifting it's basically what you've signed up for. Right? If you had, I want to make 10K, but is there a mentorship that doesn't come with challenge? Is there some way of doing this? It's like, dude, you asked for $1 million business. If you've asked for $1 million business, expect to get punched in the face with $1 million glove. Right? So if you want 5, it's not going to hurt that much. If you want 50, it's going to hurt. If you want $1 million, it's fucking going to hurt. But the funny thing is, every time you get punched, you just get more resilient with it. Right? Like boxers do. So how do they keep doing it? It's like because they've built the resilience up, because they've got a view that the target goal is the target goal of a world title equals getting punched in the face a lot. But they just build it. Like prep, like go for your pro bar. You don't matter how many preps it takes for you. No. Don't matter if they give a fuck how many meals it takes. No. No.
Do you see that a lot of business success in your experience, not just in coaching, the success of the business is relative to the person's ability to handle the stress who's running it? As I've gotten it. The emotional capacity that you have is probably why your CEO is where it's up to business. And that includes me as someone who's doing good. Like, I can clearly see that the difference between 50K and 100K is all I am the way.
Mark said something with this, when I asked a while, there was someone mentioned something online that is that you could be like stressed and you could still make progress. And if you said as well, like, it's about being able to regulate yourself. And like, I can't remember who said it, but it might have been you actually. I think it's like you can it's almost like imposter if you can't do it. Everything feels on top of you. You just start going right. Okay, put a big bill packs on, crack on with it. Like you can't be ruminating on those thoughts and things. You sort of keep going with it. And I think that's what I do. I'll literally have like one literal bad morning. I'm going to say, look, free sale, just say now. I'm going, I'm a fraud. Like, actually need to go. He said, you got free sale, just say. I'm like, and I forget what I did just the day before. And it's mental.
But I've been doing it 25 years, and we can do 2 scale sales. And then I go for a walk. I'm like, you fucking loser.
Oh, you still
I fucking still do it. I like generally I forget when we have a record month on the Monday. No, that shit's not going anywhere.
I think that's actually a really good lesson for entrepreneurship with someone who's been a serial entrepreneur. That the traits that you have to maximize for a successful business are actually not that good for happiness of life. Because by proxy, you look at everything that's broken and what's wrong, and that's how a business has to work. Like Mark said, we tried 15 DSLs, we went through this. And so all of the characteristics and all the planning that your brain is solving for your business, you have to learn how to segment that from your personal life. If you take that to your personal life, Mark can't go home and go, oh, Marsh, this is all wrong. We need to fix all this. That's not the type of communication that's going to work. And that's something in the last couple of years I've worked really hard on, and it's allowing me to be a lot more peaceful and free.
I cut off. I come out my office. I knock on the door twice to myself. I do. I come out my office, knock on the door twice, and I go and be a dad.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a little.
I want to see it.
Yeah. So I sit at my desk and I just go cool, and then we're downstairs, and then. Yeah, I'll eat my food and my phone just in case somebody messages, but it's him time, right? And that's when I want to be present. But it's so important. Has anybody here seen Rafa Nadal's documentary yet? Motherfucker, what a guy. Watch it. You want to learn about entrepreneurship? That's just fucking bury yourself bullshit. I swear. You watched it, right?
Yeah.
That guy basically has done anything possible to absolutely crush himself, to be the best person in the world, right? He's competed with nerve injections so he can't feel his foot, right? To win, right? I'm not trying to tell you to become ill in entrepreneurship, but it kind of goes against the idea of stability, emotional regulation, like, because you're trying to be the pro athlete of the world. And if you look at anyone from Lewis Hamilton, Rafa Nadal spent 2 years trying to beat Djokovic and just was getting beaten left, right, and center. He was like, fuck me, I think it was Federer. And then it was like, play to his fucking backhand. And then he played to his backhand. He's like, fuck me, I got him. But it took 2 years or something like that to just try and fucking nail it. And the point is that like, whatever you're trying to break through right now, you've got to build the resilience. That, of course, I'm not saying go sleep 2 hours a night. I still sleep 7 hours a night. I have a great loving relationship with my family. But it comes with the turmoil. It comes with the stress. It comes with the emotional ups and downs, thinking you're good enough, you're not good enough. It's just there, right? And when you get to 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, they're the same emotions at 150K. They're the same emotions when they're not below the 300K. Like, it just all happens. The good thing is you become way better regulated, and you become way better at delegating a lot of the workload so that you can pull a bit of the stress to keep that to you. The problem is if you're trying to grow the business at 100K plus on your own, you can't handle the emotion because you're also handling emotion of other things. So what I do is, as I'm growing, I shed to be able to handle the pressure of the business, and then share that load with other people. So having a team member is sharing the load of emotional responsibility so that you could actually grow as a team. And that really is entrepreneurship in a nutshell. You want to push, you hit emotional regulation, you hire, you train, you go for another push, and then eventually this thing that you look at companies like Microsoft and fucking Emirates and all these different world global companies, that there's one person. I spoke to a global conglomerate of 5-star hotels, one of their senior vice presidents. I said, what is the fucking key to a hotel's success? When you see a hotel that's got 500 employees and it's looking beautiful 5-star, I'm fascinated by the Mandarin Oriental, right? And I said, how does the Mandarin Oriental do what they do in Milan, in Barcelona, in London? How do they do it so impeccably well? He said that the key to a hotel success is one thing: the GM. Because the GM sends the culture. The GM sends the culture all the way down. And that's where, if he's right or she's right, the culture is fucking amazing and it runs like clockwork, right? So you as the CEO, you are the culture. So if you bring a coach on and don't train them, you bring a fucking setter on and you don't train them, you're just not a good leader. So that culture, I need the team that I have to protect me as much as possible so that I can just focus on my genius skill. And if I can focus on my genius skill, then we will continue to grow. If I try and take on too much, then the business doesn't grow. And that's your responsibility at the front of the ship. Is the captain, when you see them on a big cruise ship, they don't do it. Yet someone's in the engine, then there's the chef and everything else. They're just there to steer the ship. And you might think it's a selfish thing as a CEO, but it's the best thing as a CEO. To be at peace with energy so that you can drive the ship. I come in and out of that position. When we had 29 team members, I was fucking chaotic. I'm less chaotic now. I do expect to go through another chaotic phase, but as we grow, it's just that entrepreneurial balance that everybody has to have. Guys, thank you, by the way. So let's take a break. We'll have a coffee. Come back. We'll come back in half an hour.